As you were concluding the last discussion, I felt the inspiration for the question. And it's really the question of shifting my expectation. Because I've been listening to you for years and hearing you, and every time I hear something that is spun a little bit differently, I gain some clarity, and I feel like I release some resistance, and I feel better, and I feel movement in the right direction towards what I want.
And that is shifting expectation.
Okay.
We want to hear you fully, but expectation is a wonderful blend between desire and belief. Because what you desire is sometimes not what you believe, but what you expect really does include what you believe. So expectation is stronger on the believing side than it is on the desiring side. But when desire and belief blend, what a magnificent expectation that is. And that's when you are at your most powerful. So we just want to make one comment, and then we want to hear you fully. We would not encourage anyone to try to alter the belief part of expectation. If you desire something and it doesn't happen because you're not lined up with it, or because you don't understand something, there are many people who try to hold their desires back because when they focus upon a desire that they don't believe, it's uncomfortable. And the tug of war just makes them weary. Well, we're not wanting you to be weary, but we're also not wanting you to try to let go of desires. So it's much more beneficial to you if you hold to your desires and think about them in the way that's easiest for you to do. And in doing so, your beliefs about them will morph into alignment. Your desire is a very strong energy because your desire is accompanied with your vortex and with source energy. But your beliefs are strong because of your habit of thought here in this physical experience. So the word expectation, we're so happy that you bring it to this forum, is really talking about the convergence or the marriage or the meeting of non-physical and physical, desire and belief. What I know from my broader perspective and what I've picked up along my physical trail. Now, what you've picked up along your physical trail, you've sifted and sorted, and you have enhanced your desire. You've honed it. You've sharpened it. You've put pieces of your desire into this vortex, and it has matured and gestated into this magnificent potential for manifestation and reality for a vibrational existence right now. So you have to find a way to think about your desires and feel good while you're thinking about them. Stepping back and being more general sometimes, not getting more specific than you are able. We talked about yesterday, talking about why you want it, not how or where or when or who. When you talk about a desire and you talk about how it's going to come about and you don't know, you introduce contradictory energy. When you talk about your desire and you talk about when it's going to come or where it's going to come from or who's going to bring it, and you don't know the answers to those questions, you introduce resistance into the equation, and your expectation then is threatened. But when you talk about what you want and why you want it, you shore up your expectation. You cause yourself to believe more and more and more until finally someone might be challenging your desire and you're not even bothered by their challenge because you know they don't know. They haven't been in the mix with you. They don't know what's in your vortex. They haven't been walking with you. They haven't felt you mold your energy step by step. They haven't been with you when the universe revealed to you and you allowed yourself to realize this proof of your alignment and this proof and this proof and this proof. They don't know what you know, that all things are possible for me. And so after a while, you just get so good at this that others' opinions are irrelevant to you. You're respectful of them and considerate of them because you know that they're living in a world where they're wanting to create their own reality too. But after a little while, you realize nobody has to step aside for you to create your reality. And you don't have to step aside for anyone else to create your reality. This time-space reality is perfectly balanced, you see. So you don't have to struggle or fight or squabble over crumbs about anything.
So I almost feel like on a couple subjects in my life right now that it's like I know cognitively how to ride a bike, and I've studied how to ride a bike for years. And when I get on a bike, I can make it a few feet and then I fall. You know, I try to get on and ride it further, and so I end up studying more on how to ride the bike.
Now we're going to play with you just a little bit. Did you really study how to ride it a long time before you got on it?
No.
I didn't think so. But the reason you said that is because you all do study a lot of other things before you try them. Did you read a lot of books before you had sex?
Yes.
Some questions are better not asked. But what we're getting at is, we know what you are talking about. You're talking about getting too much in your head about it. And this is the reason that we want to continue to point out that life just causes you to ask. You can't stop it. And Source continues to line up things that you're asking for. So the answer is right there for you. And as you just relax a little and chill a little and try not to please so many others who have already sort of lost their connection to their alignment, and so follow your impulses more, what you begin to understand is that you don't have to study anything, that life will deliver to you all the information that you need. Esther's been noticing, because she's spread out among 3 properties now, and she wants to be at every one of them all the time because they are lovely in their own remarkable way. But of course that's not logical, and so she is moving about from place to place, sort of letting it depend upon her proximity to the seminars that she's doing so that the flight time is less and so forth. But in the process, she's got a lot of moving parts and a lot of people that are tending to a lot of moving parts. And for a while, she felt like, in fact, recently even, that she needed someone out ahead of her to check out the moving parts so that the moving parts were moving correctly before she showed up. Because it's not fun to get there and have to tend to moving parts that need to be brought into balance. I'm only here 6 days. Do I really have to do that now? Wouldn't it have been nice if that had been figured out before I got here? But then she began to notice that everything is sort of taking care of itself. And anything that she needs to know just shows itself to her. In other words, feel the difference between needing to go and look at every single thing with dozens and dozens and dozens of checklists and dozens and dozens and dozens of people checking the dozens and dozens and dozens of checklists. Think how lovely it is to have an inner being who knows all of your intentions about anything, who will give you a very clear indicator if there's something that you might want to give your attention to, so that you don't have to overwork yourself. You don't have to read all the books. You just have to be tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and whatever is important to you will be realized by you under those conditions. So we love you so much, humans have made your life so much more complicated than they need to be, because you have guidance, you have infinite intelligence, aware of you and where you're going and where you're wanting to go and where you stand in relationship to everything you want. And what is the path of least resistance? Path of least resistance meaning what easiest way for you given the resistant beliefs that you hold. How good is that? How much more do you need? A navigational system from divine intelligence that understands you and loves you and wants for you all the things that you want. Don't you think it's time to just chill out? Be easier, effortless, trust more, imagine anything that feels good to you, and then realize and witness the beneficial life that you have carved out for yourself? It's what you intended when you decided to come. And it's what our agreement was that we would remind you about.
So I've got some really strong desires, and there's one in particular that I actually feel like I'm moving away from what I want.
Well, that's what we're talking about. It's because you're efforting too much. It's because you're aware of where you stand in relationship to it too much. Imagine if you were in your vehicle. Jerry used to say this about Esther, so it really is a true thing. And he stopped doing this. He'd say, look at that. And suddenly the car would begin to veer over in that direction. It's like she couldn't look at anything that she didn't start to drive right toward it. He'd say, all right, now, we're going to keep moving straight down this road. Yes? Can you do that? And can you look over there at 9 o'clock without driving over there at 9 o'clock? Just keep driving at 12 o'clock and look over at 9 o'clock. Esther would look over. There is a vibrational reason for that. In other words, everything begins moving in the direction of what has your attention, you see. And so there are just a couple things going on in my, I wanted to say now reality, but I realize it's not right now. Wanted things? Or absence of wanted things?
Absence of wanted
Then
things.
don't talk about it ever again. Because it just causes you to activate the vibration and throw more resistance on the trail, which hinders your path to where you want to go. You see, here's the thing. So it must feel a little strange for us to say to you, you're born into an environment of diversity and contrast. You get that? And we say, you sit and sort it, know what you don't want, know what you do want. And you decide what you do want. And there's a lot of decisiveness happening within you. You're deciding at all levels of your being more than you realize. And you are creating your version of your perfect world. You've created it vibrationally. And it will manifest fully in your experience unless you continue to do the tugging against. In other words, feel what it feels like when you have made a decision about something. Think for a minute about what the word determination means. Feel what it feels like when you use the word focus or clarity. And feel how uncomfortable it is when you feel undecided about something. That's the greatest discomfort in the world. I think I should do this, but maybe I'll do this, but I want to do this, but maybe I'll do this. Choose one. Just choose one. Choose one and stop the self-inflicted torture. Just choose something and line up with it, you see. So we want to tell you something that you don't know yet. Most of you don't realize this. We've said it a few times, but we haven't said it in an emphatic enough way or with enough examples that you really understand it in the way we want you now to understand it. Your desires are so much more powerful than your obstinate beliefs. Your desires are so much more powerful. And that is the singular reason that negative emotion even exists. Your desires are so much more powerful than your beliefs because your desires are intertwined with source energy. Your desires are backed up by the energy that creates worlds. So we're really saying two things to you. If your desire is strong enough, it must come to be, and it will. But you can tortuously hold yourself apart from it by your negative attention to the opposite of what you want. You heard us yesterday saying, that's why. Why isn't something happening? That's why. It's because your attention is on it not happening. Every subject is two subjects, wanted and absence of it. So when you give your attention to the opposite of what you want, you practice the vibration, and that's where beliefs come from. You give your attention to something for as little as 17 seconds, really more like 16 seconds, really more like 14.5 seconds these days. You give your attention to something for as little as about 14.5 seconds. Seriously. And what happens is another thought joins it that is like that. And as you continue to give your attention to it, that thought continues to gather momentum. And as that thought gathers momentum, it has more pulling power or more ability to resist. It's like sticking a stick in the spoke of your bicycle wheel. That wasn't in the manual, was it? Get going as fast as you can go and then ask someone to stick a stick in the wheel. And yet you do that all the time. You get moving along with your desires, and then you introduce something happens, you smell something, or you hear something, or you're reminded of something, and then you get off on some tangent which activates within you something that contradicts your desire. So let's go back to what we were saying that we really want you to hear. Your desire is infinitely more powerful because it is the longevity of who you really are tied into it, and because source energy is involved. So the two things that we're saying to you, the important things that we want you to always remember, or remember for a minute and we'll tell you again, is that desire is very, very powerful. That's first. And that you must have practiced quite a few contradictory beliefs to even slow yourself down a little bit. And that's something that you are usually complaining about quite a bit. Why did my parents not know what you know before I got here so that I didn't have to go through all of the ingesting of their worry and the learning of their beliefs that would later hinder me? And we say, because that's part of the contrast. In other words, feeling negative emotion. Hear this. Feeling negative emotion. Feeling negative emotion is the most wonderful way for you to figure out that you don't want to feel negative emotion. And how you have ever come to a group of people who are willing to endure negative emotion is really, it's not a mystery to us because we understand everything. And we're not laughing at you. We're not sitting in corners. But you got to wonder why you would put up with negative emotion in the subtle stages when you now know, and you do now know, and we know that you know, and you know that we know that you know. You do know that there is momentum, and the law of attraction causes momentum. You do know that. Don't you know that? You know that. So when you tiptoe into some subject that doesn't feel good when you talk about it, and you keep going, it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Now, we will acknowledge that sometimes you don't know right away. You just sort of blundered into it. But after a while, you figured it out.